Hello, this is Cody the Coin Raptor, and welcome to my channel. Today's video, we're going to be talking about Bitcoin and what's been going on with the Bitcoin price recently. After I released my last video on about the 20th or so of April, we saw a huge Bitcoin pump taking the price all the way up to about 97K or so, and it hung in that area for a little ways, and then it came back down just a little bit here to 96,000 on today's current price. So in that video, I talked about the massive amount of volatility that I was expecting in the market, and it just so happens that that volatility combined with some market forces I'm going to talk about later that created a very, very nice Bitcoin price pump. In this video, we're going to be talking about if this pump can last, my expectations for the price, some more options expiries, and some additional information, some information regarding adoption. If you guys are interested in hearing more, make sure you subscribe, make sure you like, make sure you hit the bell icon to be notified when my videos are uploaded. So Bitcoin right now has been very strong. And in fact, we have the super trend up here on the daily. The super trend right now is flashing a buy signal, and it's been like that since the 22nd of April. You can see here that it crossed above this sell point at about 89,500, and the buy was triggered. So when it comes to the super trend's pretty good at giving you a good idea. It's not accurate all the time, but it's accurate maybe about 60% of the time. Normally on the daily, when this gets triggered, it'll stay in this buy range for anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks, sometimes maybe even a month or two. You can see all the way back here in September, it gave you a similar buy signal, and it didn't stop until all the way back up here into about December, so it was about a couple of months. But then you also have periods here, like for instance, it was triggered in March, and then it stopped about from the 2nd to the 7th or 9th of March. And so sometimes it can last kind of a week, sometimes it lasts a couple of months. But generally speaking, if you buy with this, when this buy signal gets hit, you do tend to have a price appreciation in the Bitcoin price. So this right now, I think, is a bullish indicator, and I would expect that as long as Bitcoin stays above this 89,000 level, 89,000 was that 89,276 currently, that this buy signal will be in place, and it's very possible that we actually go up higher. I think it's possible that we can retest this key resistance level here at about 97K, and then from there potentially go all the way up to 100K and move past that level here in the next month or two. Now, that being said, Bitcoin is looking a little overbought. It's about 66 on the daily RSI. Now, as a reminder, when it hits 70, it will actually become overbought. But usually when Bitcoin hits that overbought signal, that's not necessarily a sign that it's going to immediately come back down again. We've seen here, like for instance, back in November, where it actually went up to 70, and then from there it climbed up to 83, and then bounced in that range, and then finally came back down in November. So just because it hits that overbought signal doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to come back down again. So right now, things are looking very bullish for the Bitcoin price action, and I do think that in the near term, we're going to continue this rally. And one of the reasons why we've seen this rally happen is we've had a lot of news regarding Bitcoin. Bitcoin has outperformed the NASDAQ. So the NASDAQ year to date is down 4%. Bitcoin in that same time span is up 3%, which is a huge difference. Normally, the NASDAQ and the Bitcoin price were heavily correlated, and now we've started to see a little bit of a divergence between those two as people are looking for alternative assets to the dollar and thus are buying Bitcoin. We have our options expiry going on here on the 9th of May. So about 6 days from now. And this is going to be almost $2.5 billion worth of options, almost evenly divided between the calls and puts. So this is very unusual, very, very unusual that we have such a close relationship between the calls and the puts. Normally, the call options are outweigh the puts by a significant degree, but now it's actually pretty close here. And the calls sitting at about 1.3 billion, the puts sitting at about 1 billion. Now, what this means for the price right now is if you take a look at the max pain price, 92,000 for that expiry, 92,000, meaning that that is significantly lower than where we are currently. So it would stand to reason that by the time this expiry happens, that the expectation is that the price is much lower than it currently is. If you believe in the Max Payne theory, that would put it at about 92K or so by the end of the week. But take that with a grain of salt because this is not a guarantee. Now, as a reminder, the max pain price is basically the area where everybody loses. The call options lose, the put options lose, and the maximum amount of pain is inflicted upon all the contract holders. So it's just interesting to note that that's the case right now. Normally, when this is significantly higher, significantly lower, that could mean that we could have some serious volatility as these options are exercised. Now, what's also interesting about this is the end of the month options that we've looked at for the 30th of May. This is sitting at about 5.3 billion, so it's a little bit higher. And if you go ahead and take a look at the max pain price for that, you can see here that it's sitting at about 88K. So this is significantly lower. Traders are betting on Bitcoin being lower by the end of the month. And that's something that we will watch out for. I'll make sure I pay attention to this and report back to you guys on some later videos about how this will change over the month. Now, what's also interesting about Bitcoin, the reason why it's been going up so much lately is because, quite frankly, the exchange reserve, the number of Bitcoin on exchanges has been plummeting ever since the 20th of April. We've seen a large move on the exchange reserve. We've seen this this is just a 1 month. If you take a look at the 1 year, it's even more dramatic, all the way going from, up here at 3.1 million Bitcoin on the exchanges about a year ago to about almost 2.5 million over the last year. So huge demand for Bitcoin. You have people like Michael Saylor coming out for MicroStrategy, now Strategy, talking about raising potentially $42 billion in equity and $42 billion in fixed income to purchase Bitcoin. So this is massive, massive, massive amounts of money going into Bitcoin. This is massive demand. In addition to this, you also have the number of people coming in and putting money into Bitcoin spot ETFs. If we take a look at the SoSo Value spot ETF tracker, we can see over the last 2 weeks there have been massive inflows into into a Bitcoin spot ETFs. Okay, so for instance, on that week of the 24th of April, the net inflow is $3 billion. Now, the next week after that, it's almost $2 billion. So $5 billion total in 2 weeks is insane. And that's the reason why we've seen the Bitcoin price spike so high, is because there's been a large shift of assets from maybe fixed income, maybe people sitting on the sidelines, to go and buy these Bitcoin spot ETFs. Now, in addition to that, you have people like Senator Loomis backing Bitcoin Acts currently. The whole idea here is to buy a large amount of Bitcoin. They're saying 1 million for the strategic reserve for the United States. So this would be kind of huge. This would be the holy grail of Bitcoin demand, essentially, is the U.S. government buying Bitcoin. But in addition to that, you also have individual states like North Carolina that are passing bills right now in order to do crypto investments, including Bitcoin. So this is also another major driver of that demand. Okay, so you have states like North Carolina and also Arizona as well that are interested in having a Bitcoin reserve or crypto reserves. So this is another reason why Bitcoin has been going higher and higher and higher. Just the idea, adoption continues to move through an uncertain time right now. That is the key. That is the holy grail for Bitcoin, that adoption. Eventually, you have a strategic asset reserve, and that will buoy the price significantly. Now, if you go ahead and take a look at the long-term versus short-term holder supply, this is something that I've been looking at, and this is a pretty good indicator of how the market's feeling. The long-term holders, people who have held Bitcoin in their wallets for more than 139 days. This is currently sitting at about 78% of the supply, and when it gets this high, you tend to see that these long-term holders are people that will continue to hold Bitcoin. They will not sell, at least until you reach all-time highs, which for us is somewhere north of 100, probably 107,000 currently. So these people will hold onto Bitcoin, and they will continue to hold until the next all-time high. And then again, taking a look at our MVRV Z-score to determine whether or not Bitcoin is undervalued or overvalued. We're currently sitting at about a 2.23. Now, as a comparison, back when Bitcoin started to peak back in December, we were sitting at about 3.3. So we are still currently under that level of demand, under that level of overpriced, I guess you could say at this point. That was overpriced here above 3. Now, as a reminder, the bull market tops tend to peak out at about 6 or 7 or so. You can see here back in 2021, it hit about a 7. Back in the 2017 bull market, you can see it was up here at like 8, even higher than that. So just as a reminder that us sitting right now currently at 2, it's not a really big deal, okay? Now, as a reminder, this takes the market value and then divides it by the realized value for Bitcoin and gives you an idea of how overvalued Bitcoin is compared to its previous history. Okay, so now bringing this all back together, Bitcoin right now is set up to move, and I do believe that we're going to hit a new all-time high within the next couple of months. We just need to be patient, all right? But let me know what you guys are thinking. Let me know if you're buying or selling Bitcoin, if you're interested in spot ETFs, or if you've decided that you want to hold the Bitcoin yourself and put it in your own cold or hard wallets. Let me know what you guys want to see. If you want me to take a look at some other metrics, leave a comment below, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.